Welcome to Frat Props and Gaming. In this video, I'm just going to continue on from our crashed Falcon terrain build. What we're going to do is just take this rock pattern and this flocking technique to make a few other items to sort of flesh out this battlefield a bit more. So what I'm going to do first of all is I've just got a couple of pieces of just MDF offcuts. All I've done is just roughly shape them round the ends and things because you don't want hard corners. So I've just done that. I just did a quick undercoat on the top edge. That's just to allow the glue to actually stick properly as opposed to soaking in while we're working. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those. Let's put the Falcon out of the road. Now I've also just sliced up just some strips of styrofoam left over from previous projects. Now all we're going to do is just take our knife, and what we're going to do is just make little sort of rock piles to add a little bit more cover and sort of tie the Falcon in to the rest of the battlefield. Now we're going to do some of this going to be slightly like taller, and some of it's just going to be low sort of barricades you hide behind. So all we need to do first of all is just take some foam, cut it just to rough shapes that you want to work with, and then start gluing it on. So this one here, I want to kind of make like a central sort of column and then have some sort of smaller rocks around the bases. So I'm just going to get it one strip, cut it in half approximately, maybe slightly more than half. Just squat nearly all the way through, snap it off. Now that's going to be our central pillar. We don't need to shape it at this point because we're going to do all of that once it's dry in place. So just make sure we've got a nice flat level base to work from. Just that little bit on the end there giving us grief. Alright. Let's get a little bit of PVA and we're just going to stick that down. Doesn't matter if you use too much glue. And it doesn't matter if this is standing upright exactly or if it's leaning over slightly. Leaning over is fine. And I'm just going to roughly cut this up. Now it doesn't matter that we don't have organic shapes yet because we'll carve all that as we go. Gaps between them is completely fine. Now all I'm doing is just roughly laying them in an approximate location to work out where I want to stick them. I kind of cut this one on a bit of an angle. Again, you're not trying to copy anything in particular here. You're just trying to make your own kind of pile of rocks to work with. Alright. Once you've got roughly the layout you want, just put a little bit of glue on them. If you can glue on more than one edge, it will be more beneficial because the more you can anchor them together, the more of a stable base you'll have for carving later. Don't worry about gaps in between them. We can fill the gaps with basic material and flock. It's easiest while working like this to try not to have it overhang the base because that just adds more work for yourself. You can go right up to the edge of the base though, and that won't be a problem in the least. Excess glue squishing out is fine because we're going to cover all those edges when we're done. Alright, so we just got the first one there done. Just continue working the same way until you've made a few. Alright, so I'm just going to try to slice this one down the center. because this is a nice thin strip to work with. Yeah, I might have to take another pass. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to start with the central wall, which we will of course contour and shape once it's set in place. And then what we'll do is we'll cut the other strip up into sort of small little chunks that we can sort of place around it. Sort of bulk it up in some places, thin it out in others. Because while we want it to look natural, it's also an alien world. Go for a little bit of a pillar on the end. It's a nice even slice. Here, sort of angle a little bit. It's fine. Alright, so I'm just going to take the remaining foam, just cut up in little chunks, just irregular. Change the shape, change the angle, change the thickness. And I'm just going to sort of randomly place these around here until I get the desired look I'm after. A bit of glue there I'm just going to use. Just going to sort of lean this one over, bridge the gap a little bit with it. You can always add more glue later. Yeah, remember there's no rules to what we're doing here. You're making a terrain piece. So it just has to fit the idea you have in your own mind. Nothing's perfect, but nothing's wrong. Drop there to run down and anchor that, and one there as well. Alright. Now on to the last one. Want a bit of decent height again, but I'm not going to go for just one large pillar. I'm just going to go for a couple of small ones. I'm just going to kind of angle these ones a bit too. I'm going to go back to back a little bit with them like that, and sort of float this other one out here a bit, and then we'll fill in around them. Seems like an alright idea. Just turn it around while you're working. See all the angles. Cover it however you feel you want. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's just what you're happy with. And I'm actually just going to bridge across the top of these two here. bit weird, a bit random, but it's how it probably should be. Alright, so we'll let those dry. Then we're just going to shape them a bit more. Come back, start painting, adding detail, and go from there. These have all dried quite nicely now. Next step I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a knife and I'm just going to start sort of shaping these into more sort of rock shape. It's going to be mainly knocking off the 90-degree corners, trying to make them look a bit more rounded and organic. So I'm just going to work through these. Now I'm not going to mark them like I did when I did the base for the Falcon. I'm just going to kind of freehand these a bit and just sort of see what we can do. Alright, those are now done. I'll just clean up the mess a little bit and then I'll just give them a quick coat of glue just to seal the foam. And then we're ready to start painting and basing. When we left off with these, I was painting them with PVA. Now since then I've just done a quick undercoat of black. Now I'm going to start dry brushing on the grey to build up the different sort of colour. Then we can look at basing material and going further and finishing these. So I'm just going to start off with just a little bit of grey. I'm not going to try to mix this or blend it or tone it in any way. So I'm straight with the grey, and I'm just going to dry brush it straight on. Right, now dry brushing, of course, you dip your brush in the paint, wipe off as much as you can, and just sort of start applying it. This brush itself is being a bit of a pain actually. It's a bit too rigid for this. Alright, try for another brush. Here we go. This one's not softer, more flex to it. It's the problem with brushes, do wear out over time. Now the purpose of the dry brush coat is to not cover the entire amount of black. We're just going on here with a quick layer of paint over the top. What we're trying to do is just pick out, highlight the raised edges, some of the sort of textured detail on some of the flat surfaces, and just try to overall lighten the piece up. Now you can leave as much paint on the brush or wipe as much off as you need to build up the colour. See there, it's already nice and bright, as opposed to the other side. Now I've chosen not to sort of dull down this grey with any black, as I've done previously. Simply for the sake of, this is just sort of basic fill-in terrain. This isn't a centerpiece, this isn't sort of a piece that's going to stand out in its own right. So it doesn't need as much detail or as much time taken on it. You will still get just as good of an effect on it when it's finished, but you'll be able to achieve that a lot quicker. And that's what you want to be able to do when you're trying to fill an entire table of terrain. You pick a few pieces to be your centerpieces. You spend your time on those. That's where you apply a lot of your effort, all your techniques. You make all of them first. You get them all to tie together. And then you go through your filling terrain. Notice we're actually using very little paint as we go. The palette seems to be dipping a tiny amount at a time, which is fine. Okay, so that's them all roughly done. So we've got the dry brushing dry on these now. I've run a little bit of black over the basing, just sort of smooth up the edges and things that way. Next, I'm just going to be adding some basing material. And then once the basing material is on there, we're going to add some brown, some white highlight over the top, and then we can add our flock, and then these will tie into this one here. Alright, so we'll just move along. So I'm starting out, just getting a tray to work within, just to try to minimize mess. Using our same basing material we had previously. This basing material, if you're unaware, it's kind of like a ballast. You can get it from most model railway train stores. Just kind of like a coarse gravel is what it really is. Any sort of coarse material will work fine for this. Alright, so we're just going to just an old brush. Just a little bit of PVA. And we're just going to sort of dot around the base a few places. Actually, I might use a palette so I can just brush it where I need it. I'm just going to sort of dab it around the edges a bit, underneath there. Now, if you remember from the Falcon video, we went quite heavy-handed with the basing material. I'm not going to go as heavy on this one here, as this is just sort of tying terrain. It's not really a themed piece, and not really like an objective. Now, PVA does give us a good work time. Alright, so let's put that down there, and we'll just start sort of sprinkling on some basing material. Tip it off as we go, turn it around. As we're not going as heavy-handed on this, it's less critical about how much sticks first go around. We'll have a look after we're done and see if we decide to add more. Alright. That actually doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to put that one aside to dry. Do the next piece. Just tap off the excess there. The base material is great. It's in around the edges. It helps you sort of fill any voids and things you may have. Well, I don't want to go too heavy-handed with the material. I still want to make it obvious that it's there for the sake of tying in. That's not too bad. Let's put it on the side. The last one. Now with this last one, I decided to leave these nice big flat faces here because I'm going to plan to put some detail on there after everything else is there, just to sort of see if I can make it sort of appear like it could have been like an ancient marker. Alright, so we'll just do this one, then we'll clean it up, wait till it dries, and then we'll come back and do the last bit of painting before the flock. All of the basing material so far is now dry, so I'm just going to go along, start adding a little bit of brown paint, then do a quick dry brush of white, then we can add the flock and be done. Alright, so again I'm just going to use the same one here, same brown paint I've been using previously. So very quick paint up of it. Now we don't want a whole lot of paint for this, just a very quick sort of dabbing in over some of the material, just to sort of bring in a different element, different colour to the basing. It's all done. Won't take very long to dry. Right, so we'll try to dry brush the white on. Alright, that's all the white done. Alright, so what we'll do is get our box lid again. Just going to brush on some glue, apply the flock, exactly as we did before. Just going to leave these in here to dry. Probably going to take probably a couple of hours before I can actually try to pull any of the excess off. So we'll just let that dry. Then we'll come back to it and we'll do the last lot of flock. Okay, so all of this flock here is dry. Now we're just going to add some of the static grass. Let's get our box ready. A little bit of glue on our palette. And they are all now done. Please check out my Facebook page if you want to see more detailed photos of the finished result. What I've also done with this one here is, because I kind of left it as a pillar, I just grabbed a gold Sharpie and just drew on a couple of Necron symbols. I know that's in contrast to the crashed Eldar ship, but there's nothing saying that the Eldar are fighting on one of their own planets. So you can just do little markings like that here and there. Unless you're actually catching the right light, you'll barely even notice it was there. And you can add a little bit more element of fun to your games. Alright, thanks for watching.